Hi, Tony Bradshaw with AddSomeToYourIncome.com, where my focus is on ways to increase your income. Today I'll be talking about how to increase your passive income from writing books, doing that author work. My focus is in on how passive income works and how to make it so that you will have a book that sells. There is much about authorship. I hope to be able to focus in on how to increase your income. Just a small piece here in case you're visiting for the first time, landing on this book writing passive income idea. I see income as three different types after much research and bringing it together. There's labor income, passive income, and gift income. Other videos I have talk about how to increase the others. Today's focus is the passive income from book writing. The book writing process takes a long time before you see the income alone. You will spend a lot of money on editors, on illustrators, and you'll spend a lot of time and emotional energy on contacting publishers and testing your material. You will find yourself stretched to see the passive income eventually come. I'm just laying that out now. Be ready to do lots of work before you see the income coming from writing. As I dive in, I'm going to be talking about examples. I have 4 books I just picked up. I want to talk about why it is that I'm getting those books, because these examples are examples of how they are valuable and how the book is put together with what I call theme and variation. The book also meets a need. So these 3 things will be what I talk about as I go through these books to help guide you into knowing what it is you want to do to increase your income. All right, so theme and variation, it's valuable, it meets a need. I have 4 books that I just picked up, and it's like, why did I get these 4 books? They are books that give a nice theme and variation for the most part. Let me make sure I define theme and variation for you. Authors do this. Authors become known as writing to a certain audience, a certain genre. They get known for their theme, right? And then they have their variations on the theme. They have either various worlds that they're building inside of their theme, or if it's nonfiction, they have various bits of advice that they have that's in their particular item that they're writing. If they need to create a theme that's so very different, sometimes they have a name that they make up for themselves, a pseudonym, right? A pseudonym, a fake name, that they then author a completely new theme on the new name. For example, if I were to say Ben and Jan Berenstein, you probably know about the Berenstain Bears, and they wrote those books together. And then their kids tried to pick it up as well and didn't do quite as great, right? When you read the stuff written by the kids. But the Berensteins together created Berenstain Bears. They were illustrating and writing these books that we knew as kids and loved. There's the theme, and they had all the variations on their different adventures that they had, different things that would happen throughout the seasons and such. So if you really want to be able to get great at your book writing, you find that theme, you find your lane, and you then stick to it. As I said, 4 books. So let me grab this first one. I'm sat down right here. Here we go. I grabbed this book, Decimal Destinations. There's something about this that I know is going to work really well for my almost 10-year-old, right? So his birthday is this week. Now that it's the summertime, his birthday is this week. And decimals is a spot where he's at with how to add, subtract, take care of decimals. Most of this looks like adding. It is some subtracting as well. Ooh, and dividing. And it gets more and more complex doing percentages. It really builds in its complexity. And in the end, when he does it correctly, he ends up with a word that's spelled out on the grid here. And so he does all these problems. He finds out what color at what spot, and he fills in and it ends up with a word. So one of these just blank. Here it is blank. It's got a few of the letters already there. And then he solves all these math problems and gets to end up having his answer inside of this. This book is valuable. The need that it meets is my son being able to work in decimals, division, percentages. It's a math book. I know that. So this Evelyn B. Christensen, if she wants to go out next and write a thriller murder mystery series, she might still use the name Evelyn Christensen. She might find another variation like Lynn, like some pseudonym that she makes up for herself that may be different. But for this particular book, here she is known as this. I've talked about what it is. Now I hope you can see the variations. As I go through this, it starts out with fairly simple math problems like adding together is some of the first ones, then subtracting, then dividing, and they are all in the theme, and they're just giving variety to that theme. Each one of these pages, as we get into division let's check this math out, you guys. It's pretty awesome math. Each one of these is like a game for this learner on top of that variation. Check out the back here. It shows you do the colors, and you build and build. You're still not quite sure what it is until you finally see the word fish. All right, that's one book that I've picked up. How does this build your passive income? What is it that you're writing that you're going to be able to have value? That's really you on that side of things. But let's look at the 3 more books. I picked up a book called Mad Libs. There's the theme, a Mad Lib. Mad Lib is where you have a whole bunch of random nouns, verbs, the things, the actions, whatever, names of people. And then you put those names in and you read a story that should just be a regular old story, but then it becomes kind of funny. And this has quite a few of them. Here's a medical drama that, hey, we're just coming out of COVID. The nurse says, "Thanks goodness you're here, doctor. A patient was just brought in with a badly bruised." And then she's going to say a body part, but the body part, before we read the story, we all said, "Okay, everyone, give us a body part," right? And you get some random body part, and you put that down. That then is read in that part of the sentence, and that's what a Mad Lib is. And this particular book, put together by the Sterns, Roger Price and Leonard Stern, put this together. They like Mad Libs. They like putting them together. They invented them. They created them. They wrote them. They're now known through this primetime Mad Libs as ones who put together Mad Libs. Get an illustrator or illustrate it yourself. It's a fairly simple illustration. It was probably computer designed. Get yourself into some ridiculous simple directions, and you have a book. Valuable? It brings humor. What need does it meet? It helps us to learn the difference between nouns, verbs, adjectives. Kids are going to have a great time with this. Add it to the same pile. The next one, poetry. Poetry, and how to get poetry in your poetry unit to get places. The reason I picked this up is it's really well put together, and the name says the person has a PhD, right? So think about that as well as you're working on becoming an author. What's your clout, credentials, background? Who are you to put together a book on poetry? Well, this person has a PhD. Cindy Nolan Allen, she has a PhD, right? She is a very recommendable person just based on that alone. Then as I looked through this book and I see the theme, I look at that table of contents, and I see how she brings it together. She builds from the small pieces of poetry making all the way down to one of the last pieces in here is to write 2 verses that will be sung to Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star with 3 couplets. So at this point, you're able to now completely write poetry towards the end of this book. It has a grade level recommendation, which is helpful. So I know that my kid, who's in 5th grade next year, grade 4 to 6. This will work well for him. And a, valuable, yes, gain some poetry. The need, I think the need is to help us all to really understand how poetry works. What's the theme? The poetry. The variations, again, are the way that she builds across, just like some of these other books. The last one is another children's book. I have my own kids that I'm thinking about here at summertime. And it's kind of a humorous one, but it's also about being able to deal with change and new things. This is called Cheese, Peas, and Chocolate Pudding. Betty von Wittsten, and worked with the illustrator Jack Heisley to get us this book. This book looks like it was originally written in the 1950s. So it's a fairly old book, but I find that you can still really learn from this. You can learn about how the story takes a twist when he pretends to be a dog, and then the added twist that as he's barking, a hamburger ends up in his mouth, and how he grows from just only wanting to eat cheese, peas, and chocolate pudding, which could be any picky eat or anything that's going to be new and different in life that's changing up, and how he becomes actually quite comfortable with that and grows into eating other foods besides those. But at the same time, it's got this nice humor and just the whole story that's here. Now, I only have one book by this Betty von Wittstein. I'd imagine, as I would look for other books that she had a certain theme, it then becomes a variation on theme. Or maybe she has just one book that was successful. This is a successful book. It's an enjoyable book. It can be a guide for any author to write from who's wanting to write children's novels, especially because I learned recently they've got to be like 32 pages or something. And she does a great way. I felt like the story was almost over when it was halfway through, and then all of a sudden that twist and how things moved through. So an enjoyable book, an enjoyable read, an enjoyable perspective on how to get what you're writing into a theme and a variation. Make sure it's valuable. It's meeting a need that's in the market. And you keep going. Keep writing. Write another book. Do another draft. Get another person to sample read it, give you feedback. Move forward through the summer heat of getting your ideas to become something of value so that you will eventually have harvest and the selling of your book at the market so that you will see an increase to your passive income. I look forward to seeing you on the other side.